Mr. Fleming, I'm giving you 30 seconds because you were mentioned. Okay, Mr. Yard. Mr. Yard, you have the question.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I don't blame you. How do we make the Flagler Sheriff's Office more competitive so that we can retain our experienced employees?
Okay. I know there's a lot of police officers in the audience, a lot of families, police officer families in the audience. I was a police officer for 20 years on the street in New York City. I know what it's like. I know what the life of a police officer is like. We all want more money. Police officers deserve to get money, absolutely, along with teachers and a host of other people. This is how you get more money as a police officer. You come to work, you do your job, no matter what, you're getting paid. And if you do your job the right way, the public's going to notice. And they're going to support you when it comes time to get a raise. So, we all take this job not for the money. We do it because we're good people and we want to make a difference in the world. So, when I see police officers not doing what they're supposed to do, it makes me angry because I know that they're hurting themselves in the end.
Okay. I believe Mr. Fleming is still entitled to 1 minute because we began this question with Mr. Lamb. Mr. Fleming and Sheriff Manfred went back and forth. Mr. Fleming has not had his 1 minute, so you get your 1 minute.
This is under retention.
Yes.
I believe that retention, the most important thing for retention is that you have a happy work environment, a safe work environment. You don't have a corporal that's running a night shift in Flagler County with 12 deputies working out there. That's safety, that's a danger to the deputies that are out there. I believe that you give them a pay, you give them a good hospitalization, you give them a good benefit program, and you give them the opportunity to have a say in what goes on a daily basis in the agency. Incorporate them into the command staff meetings. Let them have a say. And if their say is better than mine, I'll adopt that. Thank you.
Now, in this question, all of the challengers will get the question first. Sheriff Manfred will get the last word to respond because undoubtedly these will all be comments addressed against the sheriff. Because here's the question. When the current administration took office, many senior employees who had many years of service were let go, with no attempt to reassign them and maintain their long-term employment. If elected, how would you handle the selection of your command staff, and how would you treat the long-term employees who currently hold these positions? Each of you will get 1 minute, beginning with Mr. O'Dara.
Thank you. I was appalled by the treatment of those career officers. It was very sad that they were put in that situation. Entire families were devastated as a result of that. Kids in college, no longer with us, their parents with the salary. You repeat the question again? I'm trying to get too far ahead. So.
Okay, and this is going to be, and I'm going to just say this editorial comment, this is going to be a little difficult for Mr. Manfred because the sheriff is going to have to respond to all these people, and he only gets one opportunity, am I correct?
One rebuttal.
One rebuttal, not a rebuttal to each person. That's my understanding. That's the way it was explained to me when I was given charge to do this.
I remember that.
Do you remember the question now?
Yes.
I just want to make sure everybody
The
knows.
long term.
I want to make sure everybody knows what's coming.
Yeah, the long-term employees. This is real simple. Not going to take a lot of your time. You do your job, you keep your job. I don't care about your party affiliation. If you like me, you don't like me. You'll do your job, you'll keep your job. I'll be able to get those skills and talents out of you, and you might not even know it. You're going to be productive, I can guarantee that.
Mr. Staley, you have the question.
Well, I think I was as surprised as everyone else when all the terminations occurred because I was providing no input to that even after I was announced as being under sheriff.
Please.
As far as during my I will interview every employee, every command appointed position, and then make those decisions. I don't believe that people should be pushed out the door, if I can find a position for them that they're qualified and fit for, that they will have that. I believe in soft landings if you're not one of my very top people. But I don't believe that people that are close to retirement and have made this place their home should lose their job. And that's my vision when I go in, is to interview and then select the command staff that's appropriate.
Mr. Wisdom.
We'll start off with Sheriff Manfrey is the sheriff. I'm not running against Sheriff Manfrey. I'm running for the office of sheriff. It's what we can do for the community. Working together hand in hand with the PDA, working with the union, and protecting the officers past the promotion of sergeant. There's a lot of good people out there that would love to go up. You will be protected. I will make sure after my administration is over with, you have a safe place and no one will be terminated. You will be treated with dignity and respect. I know there's a lot of good leaders out there, and keep doing what you're doing, because the leadership is going to come back. You are the leaders. You protect Ashley and I at night. You protect our friends and family. I am running for office of sheriff. I'm not running against anyone. We're going to do it together with the community. We're going to protect our deputies. We're going to make sure our deputies get fair pay. Thank you.
Mr. Yates.
Well, as far as what has gone on in the FRS system over the last 8-10 years, most of the deputies and the senior command staff are there between 20 and 24, 25 years right now. They probably would have entered drop if they could have back when all the changes were about to take place. So you got a commander or chief deputy, whatever, that's been here 22, 23 years. I have no intention on walking in and kicking anybody to the curb. I will assess everybody's abilities as far as their rank and their job position. You know, if you're over CID and that's not your cup of tea, you're better over patrol, well, we'll put you over patrol and get the best out of you and the most. Thank you.
Mr. Jones.
Yes, I was devastated when see my brothers and sisters lose their job. 20, 25 years, they're out the door. They lost their homes, their cars, they lost everything. Franklin County doesn't need that. What I would do, nobody would lose their job. We may have the sheriff come and make promises. What I would do, I would deliver on my promise. No one would lose their job.
All
Mr.
right.
Donovan, I have a question on treating long-term employees. How would you treat the long-term employees?
In my opinion, there's no substitute for experience, especially when you're in police work. The senior officers have to be treated with respect. They have to be acknowledged. You have to keep them because they're the ones that mentor and train the new guys. So I was listening to a little situation here. I was at the beach a couple months ago. I met Flagler County Deputy Sheriff, and I noticed he was very young. And I said, how old are you? He said, 19 years old. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm a sheriff, there is going to be 19-year-olds coming out to the sheriff's department. You don't have the life skills to be able to handle all the different situations that come up. So, take care of your senior officers.
Thank you. Mr. Fleming.
In my 8 years as sheriff, I know the capabilities of all the deputies that I had. I know their capabilities. And I think they did a wonderful, great job, professional job. Am I going to bring back somebody? You bet I am. And I'm going to bring back people that got messed up or screwed up with this administration that did. People who have 24, 23 years, 2 years away from retirement. That talent, that emotion that was poured into this agency will come back. And if nobody likes that, then don't vote for me. Thank you.
Well, I
come from a larger agency, actually the third largest agency in Florida. We have civil service in Jacksonville, even though it's a sheriff's office. I rose to the rank of lieutenant, and after that I was appointed. When a new sheriff comes in, and the majority of these people understand where I'm coming from, the sheriff brings their team. I reverted back to a lieutenant, and I'm thankful that I have that protection. One thing I'm looking forward to is bringing back a tested position. If a man or woman earned that position and tested and were promoted, they deserve to have kept it when a new sheriff came in. So I'm looking forward to working with the men and women to bring that back. I would also like to work with the county to see if we can create an ordinance to protect it. So later on down the road, after 8 years, when I go and retire myself, the next sheriff can't come in and demote everybody back or even fire. So they need to have that protection, they need to have that sense of security. And I'm looking forward to working with the institutional knowledge within the agency together with the staff that we already have. I'm confident in my leadership abilities that I can work with anybody here and we can get the job done, and I'm excited about it. Thank you.
The debate organizers have made a mid-shift decision because of the complexity of the answers and the number of candidates speaking to the issue. It was considered insufficient to give Sheriff Manfrey only 30 seconds to respond to 8 other people. He will have up to 2 minutes to collectively respond, and then the question is shut down.
Okay, so when we first took office, we created a transition team, of which Mr. Staley was the head of it. And that transition team made certain recommendations. The transition team recommended 4 people be terminated. And Mr. Staley was the head of that transition team. Only two people were terminated. And the central reason that I was given was that they were getting paid about $95,000. In one instance, a major was over a sergeant, a corporal, and 4 people, and was in that position, and it was a position we no longer needed. The second position, a major was getting paid $95,000, which is a lot of money in this community. He oversaw a lieutenant, a sergeant, and 4 people. So those were recommendations made to me. Every termination was made through a recommendation Mr. Staley was there, through him. The other terminations that occurred were simply based on performance. This idea that people have their jobs regardless of their performance is the reason why I got elected in the first place. I walked in the door, people did not want to show up. The former sheriff didn't show up, so they didn't show up. So I had a command staff that simply did not want to come to work. So the people who got let go, Mr. O'Brien after him, was at the recommendation of Mr. Staley because he failed to go to a high-risk search warrant because he went home tired. I think that's a reason to fire someone when you have a high-risk search warrant, you're a patrol commander, and you go home without telling the chief deputy or the undersheriff at that time that you're home during this area. So other than those 2 incidents, every other termination was based on cause for a lack of accountability of that person to do their job in the command staff position.
Thank you. We move now to questions that are candidate specific. You will have up to 2 minutes.
I'd like to respond to a lot of that.
Yes. Well, over time, 30 seconds.
Are we go on what? Response from each candidate? And this will allow you to respond for 30 seconds, and then I am shutting the question down.
All right, Mr. Manfrey, let me tell you that you are welcome to your opinion, but you're not welcome to change the facts. The fact is that when you announced that I was under sheriff, you had already put a transition team in place, of which I didn't even know the people. After the transition team was done, I was briefed, as you were, and you asked me to design you an organizational chart. I did that, you made changes. When I gave it to you, I said, I don't know the people. You'll have to decide who goes here. The next thing I knew, you terminated a whole slew of people. As far as Mr. O'Brien.
Time. Let's go now to a specific question from Mr. Jones. You will have 2 minutes. There are no Q&As back and forth. There are no responses from other candidates unless I deem that it's a personal attack. Mr. Jones, you served the Flagler County Sheriff's Office for 30 years and built an impressive career with this agency. However, the highest rank you held was that of sergeant, with only 15 to 20 subordinates. What uniquely qualifies you to run the entire agency with nearly 300 employees and a complicated budget? You have up to 2 minutes, Mr. Jones.
Yes, that is correct. I did make the rank of sergeant, and when I was going to take the test for lieutenant, it always was, the lieutenant was always picked out before the test was even taken. But when Sheriff Manfrey took the job in 2000, Bunnell was in such a turmoil, the city of Bunnell, and they was gonna have the sheriff office to take over, and Sheriff Manfrey was gonna appoint me over to that position. So that goes to show I'm qualified to take on the responsibility of an agency. And what I bring to I bring commitment. I'm committed to this community. I bring communication. I communicate well to the community, and that's what I'm sticking by and staying with that.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Doherty, this is to you, candidate specific. With due respect, sir, you do not appear to have any experience in upper management or budgeting. How will you overcome this obstacle and effectively manage a large agency with apparently limited command experience? You have 2 minutes.
I think being in the New York City Police Department doesn't qualify me as having limited command experience. I was in charge of 20 police officers. At any time during the day, I could be in charge of the whole precinct. I did midnight tours. Sometimes there isn't any higher-ranking officers on a midnight tour. So, as far as that goes, that's a non-issue. It all comes back to how you talk to people, how you communicate to people. Everyone knows that when you're the sheriff, you get a lot of help. You don't balance the budget by yourself. You don't run the department by yourself. It depends on what kind of people you have around you and how good of a communicator you are. I consider myself a great communicator. I have extensive educational background. I have a master's degree in education. I know how to talk to people. I know how to get along with people. I'm totally confident that I can do this job. I got a burning desire to do it. I love this county that I live in. That's my answer.
For you, Mr. Fleming, you served as the sheriff of this county for 8 years, and now have been gone for 4 years. Is your vision for the agency the same now as it was when you left? Or do you now have a fresh perspective that can move the agency forward? You have up to 2 minutes.
Thank you. When I was sheriff for the 8 years, I had a 5-year plan. And that 5-year plan incorporated a lot of the special units, a lot of hiring deputies, a lot of training, and a lot of professional schools that I would like those people to attend. Some of those things stay in place. Other things changed. We have a growing population now coming into Flagler County. We're going to have traffic issues all throughout the county with another 150,000 people over the next 10, 15 years. We're going to have crime. Let's not be naive and think that because Daytona is on our border and St. John's is on our other border and Orange County is right across the road, that things can't happen here. They do happen here. We have crime. We have a lot of crime that we need to address. We have different types of crime that are higher volume risk types of crimes. I believe in officer safety. I believe in that the 5-year plan that I would implement now would include what I had before, but would also include trying to upgrade those problems and put the right people in the right places to get the command staff and the agency and the deputies in the jail working together. We have a lot of issues in the jail that we have to look at in the next 5 years. Mental health issue number 1. We have 500 beds, and I'll guarantee within 5 years those 500 beds will be filled. And then what? What do? We go back into the same boat we had. We have patrol issues. We need to have more supervision on the road. We need not have a lot of people wearing hats and looking good, but we need supervisors on the road that can back up the deputies and the corporals that are working the night shift. We need a better SWAT team. The SWAT team that I had, I was super proud of, and I think the SWAT team needs to be trained and have more equipment than they have right now. I believe the K-9 unit was an asset, and that's another asset that we'll be looking at in the future. Crime suppression and narcotics. Narcotics division doesn't belong in the new building washing their cars outside
Time,
and
Mr.
having
Fleming.
people taking pictures of the cars.
Time, Mr. Fleming. I want to also alert the candidates on something else. Because we did not do opening statements, even though some of you will have answered these questions and feel you're not going to speak again, you will all be given 60 seconds at the end to summarize why people should vote for you. That is coming up. I wanted you all to be aware of that. Mr. Lamb, we go to you. Mr. Lamb, your campaign page on Facebook posted on March 14th that you believe that 10-hour shifts and possibly an 11.42-hour shift meets the needs of the county and would be acceptable to the troops.
Actually, thank you for the opportunity for explaining that a little bit better.
But I'm not finished, but there's more, as they say. 6 days later, the post was changed to favor 10-hour shifts and possibly 12-hour shifts. 17 minutes later, it was changed to favor 12-hour shifts. Please clearly explain your position regarding patrol shifts and why there were so many changes to your position in such a short time frame. You have up to 2 minutes, Mr. Lamb.
All right, again, thank you for letting me explain that. I come from an agency where we were looking at the efficiency of our staff, and we had a large agency, we had 1,600 sworn officers. We had a large community we had to address. The Sheriff Rutherford, who actually appointed me and I mentor a lot, wanted to get the input of the men and women of the agency. We looked at 3 different shifts. We looked at 8-hour shifts, 10-hour shifts, and 11.42, which we call the 12-hour shift. All right, so it's a 12-hour shift, even though 11.42, the math works out a little bit different. So we looked at that. 8 hours is the most efficient shift in an agency, okay? 8 hours, but the least popular. The men and women hated it. They hated working 7 2s, 8 4s. 7 days on, 2 days off, 8 days on, 4 days off. The 10-hour shift was the most popular, but the least efficient within the agency, and the 11 or 11.42 or the 12-hour shift was the second most popular and the second most efficient. So through working with the union and the men and women of the agency, we came to an agreement that they were going to work 12-hour shifts. I come from an agency that works 10-hour shifts. I come from an agency that works 12-hour shifts. I believe in working closely with the union and the men and women to see what suits them the best and also meets the needs of the community, because that's ultimately who we serve. So we work together to come to a decision on that. There was some confusion about that because I said 11.42, it's understood as 12 hours, but that's why the changes in the Facebook page. I was trying to clarify mine. You speak, even though we all speak cop talk, we all speak a little bit different, so it comes down to semantics. And what we do is we look at the best practices across the state. I'm a commissioner on Florida Accreditation Assessor. I go to other agencies and I assess their practices to see if they're accredited or re-accredited. And I steal their ideas, all right? They got a lot of great ideas, and I love bringing that to the men and women and working together and making that positive change with an agency. As you can see, we need some change in this agency because this back and forth has just got to stop. So I'm looking forward to that, and that's my answer to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. The next question comes from Mr. O'Connell. You appear to have extreme experience in corrections. Extensive, not extreme, but extensive. It's hot, that's my mistake. However, the majority of the Flagler County Sheriff's Officer functions relate to sworn patrol matters. Sheriff's offices are significantly different in the southern United States than they are up north. In that, in the South, they provide the majority of law enforcement services in most communities. How do you believe that you can overcome an apparent lack of knowledge regarding the main function of this agency? You have 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you. I think the premise is false. In New York State, we're peace officers. Police officers are peace officers that work for the police department. Correction officers are peace officers that work for the correction department. We all have the powers of arrest. On Rikers Island, we do investigations, we do arrests, we have harbor units, we have a K-9, we have SWAT teams, we have ISTO units, we have bakeries, libraries, hospitals, schools. We have a city within a city. When someone stabs someone in New York City, a cop arrests them. When someone gets stabbed on Rikers Island, they get arrested by a correction officer. I understand their job. I understand the hardships that they go through. The missed weddings, the missed communions, the troubles and the addictions, and the unfortunate taking of their own life. I understand what it is to be enforcing the law on Rikers Island. The idea is divisive that, I was never a police officer. I have total respect for police officers. And if there's any New York City police officers in this audience right now, could you raise your hand? Can you show me how many would actually go work for the correction department?
What was my first test?
Yeah, not too many. Yeah. We have mutual respect over there. And it's about being a manager. It's about managing the department. I'm not going to try to be the best police officer. I'm going to make sure the deputy chief is really good at his job. I'm going to create a warden's position to make sure they're really good at that portion of my job. My job is to manage. And that's why I think I did it in massive commands with 1,400 officers and thousands of inmates in a very difficult, unpleasant job.
Thank you, Mr. Mr. Stanley, this question is coming to you. I turn to the Daytona Beach News Journal, a September 2015 article. You're quoted as saying that it only took you a few months serving under Sheriff Manfrey to realize that you did not like working for him and disagreed with his vision for the FCSO. In spite of this, you remained his second in command for roughly 2 years. Please explain to the audience why you remained in this position for so long after recognizing this issue. Mr. Staley, you have 2 minutes.
I appreciate that question because I think the employees need to understand, and so does the community, on why I stayed. I almost left after 9 months because I saw the way Mr. Manfrey treated the employees and the command staff. And I stayed for one reason. I had committed to be the buffer between him and a couple other employees that had accepted promotions that I talked them into. And they had told me that they didn't want it because they were afraid that they were here in his first term and he couldn't work for them. And I promised him that I would be the buffer. And that's exactly what I did for the next 13 months or so after that. And during that time, I'm very proud of what I was able to accomplish besides having a hand handcuffed. We implemented the first CSI unit. We implemented Touch DNA. Sheriff didn't even know what Touch DNA was. We implemented the JAM unit, Juvenile Assessment and Monitoring Unit, so that these kids that are on probation actually had enforcement action to make sure that they were staying home, drug-free, and within their curfew. Implemented the first fugitive unit. Before that, warrants were put in a file cabinet if they weren't easily found. Are you kidding me? We brought back fugitives all the way from Hawaii that had committed serious capital felonies in this county. I held New World accountable for their technology, although I don't think it's still fixed. But we made some progress there. I identified the Baker Act situation for mental health in this county and then worked collaboratively with the county and Stuart Marchman to bring in a triage unit or assessment center local to save time for our deputies instead of having to track them down. Civil unrest here. This agency only had 10. We bought it all for everyone. I can go on.
Because of the nature of the criticism, to the sheriff, you have, if you want it, 30 seconds, but you must confine your comments to these criticisms only and not bring others into it. If you want that, you can have the 30, otherwise I'm moving on.
Yes, I would like this. The fact is, Rick, while you were there, that's when most of the terminations occurred. They haven't occurred since you've left. And the fact is that since you left, the cloud has been lifted from this agency. Wherever you have worked, whether it's Ginn or with Orange County, and I've spoken to those people who've done the same thing over and over again, is you demean employees, you intimidate them, and you also undermine the people that you work for. The fact is that since you've left, we built 2 buildings, we created a step plan, we have done, got accredited both in communication and patrol.
Mr. Staley, because of the personal, this is considered an attack. Do you want to respond to that?
Well,
no, I'm moving on.
I'm going to just respond with one thing. If what Mr. Manfree says, then why does the former sheriff of Orange County give me a glowing recommendation for employment when I retire? That's all I'm going to say.
Okay,